Good morning and happy Easter. Welcome to virtual worship with us here at the First Parish in Framingham. I am the Reverend Aaron Stockwell, Senior Minister of this congregation, which is a role that I so enjoy, and it is a deep privilege to be serving you in this way. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all souls. But what does that mean? It means that we welcome and celebrate all of who you are, dear one. It doesn't matter your age, your race, your ethnicity, what you believe, how you move around in the world. Wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here with us today. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. I'm so glad that you have chosen to spend the next few moments with us in virtual worship. If you'd like to receive more information about who we are and other ways that you can get involved, please click the first link below this video. That will send you directly to a form where you can fill out information, and we can be sure to get you the information that you are seeking. Or just email our office administrator, Sarah Morrison Neal, at office@uuframingham.org. Immediately following today's service will be our Zoom coffee hour. The details on how to join, which do stay the same week after week, will be on the final screen. Dear one, love has held our congregation together since 1701. It's a love that is larger than this building, larger than any device that you are connected to. Love will see us through. Welcome to First Parish in Framingham. Today's opening words are written by Langston Hughes. In the time of silver rain, the earth puts forth new life again. Green grasses grow and flowers lift their heads. And all over the plain, the wonder spreads of life, of life, of life. In time of silver rain, the butterflies lift silken wings to catch a rainbow cry, and trees put forth new leaves to sing in joy beneath the sky. When spring and life are new. I invite you, if you have not already, to find a candle and to light it. During these times when we are apart, it is crucial that we have rituals that we do together that bind us together. As I light the chalice in our sanctuary, you too are invited to light a candle in your home. Once your flame is lit and once the children have lit their flames and kindled their flames, I invite you to type into the chat, the chalice is lit in our home, or the chalice is lit in my home.
Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Happy Easter. You know, there are two major holidays on the Christian calendar, and one of them is Christmas, and the other, of course, is Easter. And at Christmas, the religious exploration group of kids introduced a story to you called The Tree of the Dancing Goats. And if you remember, the main character there was Trisha. Well, today's story follows Trisha, the one and the same, as written by Patricia Polacco. And all of her stories are autobiographical. And so this is her Easter story. It's called Chicken Sunday. And since we last saw Trisha, she's moved from Michigan out to Oakland, California. And her neighbors are a family that live right behind her called the Washington family. And here is their story. Chicken Sunday by Patricia Polacco. To Stuart Grinnell, Washington, with love. Stuart and Winston were my neighbors. They were my brothers by a solemn ceremony we had performed in their backyard one summer. They weren't the same religion as I was. They were Baptists. Their grandma, Eula May Walker, was my grandma now. My babushka had died 2 summers before. Sometimes my mother let me go to church on Sunday with them. How we loved to hear Miss Eula sing. She had a voice like slow thunder and sweet rain. We'd walk to church and back. She'd take my hand as we crossed College Avenue. Even though we've been churching up like decent folks ought to, she would say, I don't want you to step into front of one of those too fast cars. You'll be as flat as a hen's tongue. She squeezed my hand. When we passed Mr. Kodinsky's hat shop, Miss Eula would always stop and look in the window at the wonderful hats. Then she would sigh, and we would walk on. We called those Sundays Chicken Sundays because Miss Eula almost always fried chicken for dinner. There would be collard greens with bacon, a big pot of Hoppin' John, corn on the cob, and fried spoon bread. One Sunday at the table, we watched her paper fan flutter back and forth, pulling moist chicken fried air along with it. She took a deep sigh. Her skin glowed as she smiled. Then she told us something that we already knew. "That Easter bonnet in Mr. Kadinsky's window is the most beautiful I ever did see," she said thoughtfully. The three of us exchanged looks. We wanted to get her that hat more than anything in the world. Stuart reached into the hole in the trunk of our wish tree in the backyard. He pulled out a rusty Band-Aid tin. The three of us held our breath as we counted the money inside that we had been saving for weeks. "If we're going to get that hat for Miss Eula in time for Easter, we're going to need a lot more than this," I announced. "Maybe we should talk to Mr. Kadinsky. If we could sweep up in his shop or something, we could earn the rest of the money," Stuart said. "I don't know," Winnie said fearfully. "He's such a strange old man. He never smiles at anyone. He always looks so mean." We all agreed that it was worth a try anyway. The next day, we took a shortcut down the alley in back of the hat shop. Bigger boys were there. They were yelling. Eggs flew past us and pelted Mr. Kadinsky's back door. Just as the boys ran away, the door flew open. Mr. Kadinsky glared straight at us. "You there," he yelled. "Why do you kids do things like this?" "It wasn't us," Stuart tried to say, but Mr. Kadinsky wouldn't listen to us. "All I want to do is live my life in peace. I'm calling your grandmother," he shouted as he wagged his finger in Stuart's face. Miss Eula was waiting in her living room for us. "Miss Eula, we didn't throw those eggs," I sobbed. "Some big boys did," Stuart sputtered. "What were you doing at the back of his shop in the first place?" she asked. We knew that we couldn't tell her the truth, so we just stood there and cried. She looked at us for a long while. "Baby dears, I want to believe you. Heaven knows that I brought you children up to always tell the truth. If you say you didn't do it, then I believe you." "It is too bad, though," she went on to say. "That poor man has suffered so much in his life. He deserves more than eggs thrown at him. You know, he thinks you threw the eggs. You'll have to show him that you are good people. You'll have to change his mind somehow." In my kitchen the next day, we thought and thought. "How can we win him over when he thinks that we threw those eggs?" Stuart asked. "He doesn't even like us," Winston chirped. "Eggs," I said quietly. "Eggs?" Stuart asked. "Eggs!" I screamed. I went to the kitchen drawer and I took out a lump of beeswax, a candle, a small funnel with a wooden handle, and some packets of yellow, red, and black dye. Mom helped me show the boys how to decorate the eggs the way my bubby had taught us, the way they do it in the old country. We made designs on the eggshells with hot wax and then dyed them, and finally melted the wax patterns off. We put the eggs in a basket, and even though we were afraid, marched into Mr. Kadinsky's shop and put them on the counter. He raised his eyebrows and glowered at us. Then his eyes dropped to the basket. "Spasiba," he said softly. That means thank you in Russian. "Pyansky eggs," he said as he looked closely. "I haven't seen these since I left my homeland." "We didn't throw those eggs at your door, Mr. Kadinsky," we told him. He looked for a minute. "Well, then, you have great courage to be here. Chutzpah. You have chutzpah." Then his eyes glistened and his mouth curled into a warm smile. "Come, have some tea with me." We spent the whole afternoon talking together, having poppy seed cake and strong tea. He told us about his life. We told him about ours. When we finally got the courage to ask about doing odd jobs to earn some extra money, he apologized and told us that there was no work. We didn't tell him what we wanted the money for. It didn't seem the right thing to do. Our hearts sank. I tell you this, he said thoughtfully, these eggs are as beautiful as my hats. Stuart, Winnie, and I looked at each other. It is almost Easter, he went on to say. I am sure that people would love these eggs. Set up a table and sell them right here in my shop. For the next few days, we worked very hard. We made almost a dozen Piansky eggs. When people came in, they picked them up and said things like beautiful, splendid, intricate, glorious. We sold them all in a single day. That afternoon, when all the eggs were gone, we counted our money. We had more than enough for the hat. Just as we were about to tell Mr. Kadinsky that we wanted to buy the hat, he came out from the back room holding a beautiful hat box, gift-wrapped. Keep your money, children, he said softly. I have seen Miss Eula admire this. It is for her, isn't it? Tell her that I know you are very good children, such good children. When Easter Sunday arrived, we thought our hearts would burst when we watched Miss Eula open the hat box. She held us close as big tears rolled down her cheeks. Our hearts sang along with the choir that Sunday. She looked so beautiful in that hat. When it was time for her solo, we knew that she was singing just for us. Her voice was slow thunder and sweet rain. Later that day, as Miss Eula sat at the head of the table, she said, "Oh, baby dears, I can die happy now. And after I'm dead, on Chicken Sundays, I want you to boil up some chicken, bones, gravy, and all, and pour it over my grave. So late at night when I'm hungry, I can reach right out and have me some." Then she rolled her head back and laughed from a deep, holy place inside. Winston, Stuart, and I are all grown up now. Our old neighborhood has changed some, yet it's still familiar too. The freeway rumbles over the spot where Mr. Kandinsky's shop once stood. I think of him often and his glorious hats. We lost Miss Eula some time back, but every year we take some chicken soup up to Mountain View Cemetery and do just as she asked. Sometimes, when we are especially quiet inside, we can hear singing, a voice that sounds like slow thunder and sweet rain. The Easter story is one of redemption. And I think in this book, Tricia and her two neighbor brothers are seeking redemption, are seeking better understanding, are making sure that their hearts are known to all.
In our community, there is great joy and there is also great sorrow. This is the time in our service that we set aside for sharing of those things which brought a smile to our face or a tear to our eye. There'll be prompts on this screen as we light the candles that will give a better order to our sharing. Of course, in this time when we are gathering virtually, privacy cannot be guaranteed. So if there's something that you need to let me know about but you don't wish to share with others, please do send me an email. I'll be sure to get in touch with you.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
And as we go deeper into our time for contemplation, meditation, and prayer, I invite you to feel the earth beneath you, to go through all of the objects that are between you and the earth. Maybe your socks or slippers or shoes, through the floor, through the cement and the concrete, into that old brown earth. May you feel rooted to that earth beneath us. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls each one of us by our true first name, which is beloved. I give thanks for all of the joys that have been shared today, for all of the joys which remain unspoken. We have so much to be thankful for children receiving college acceptances, for children learning what comes next in their life. Of course, the constant joy, it seems, of people receiving their vaccinations. For all these joys and more, we give thanks. And of course, we are also a people of sorrow, people who mourn the loss of beloved family or friends, people who are ill. We are people who can also live with complicated grief as well. May we be empowered to reach out to those among us who are mourning, who are ill, who live with mental illness or addiction, and not just ask, how can I help? But find concrete ways to help, to lend a listening ear, to provide a casserole dish, to provide rides if it is safe. Over this last year, we have lived in isolation, May we find ways to safely reach out to those who are isolated. May we also have the courage to say, "It's me. I am feeling lonely. Will you listen to my story?" O Spirit of life and love, this time of the year liturgically is full. May we take lessons from the Passover story of resilience against great adversity, stories about freedom, and also marking plagues of the past. May we find meaning from the Easter story, a story about resurrection, believing the unbelievable. May we take meaning from the story of spring, which is on repeat every 365 days, a story of rebirth and renewal. May we find ways in the lands and places where oppression rules to work to bend the arc of the universe towards justice, to stand up against hatred in all of its forms, proclaiming that Black lives matter, proclaiming that there is no place for Asian American or Asian hate in our land, proclaiming that trans lives are beautiful, trans people are beautiful. And of course, may we work to bend the arc of the universe towards justice. May we have courage and the strength and the wherewithal to work to bend that arc, knowing that it may take longer than our lifetimes, but not giving up in that task either. And of course, there are times where we fail to live up to our expectations, others' expectations as well. May we be gentle with our beautiful, tender souls. May we be reminded that we are enough and we are more than enough. And because we are breathing, there is still time to move into right relationship with ourselves, right relationship with others, and perhaps even right relationship with the earth, the universe, and the divine. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. Amen. Let us now sit in our own separate quiets, noticing the quiet that we have, perhaps wondering also about the quiet that others have. Let us sit in silence. As we come out of our quiet, and as we leave our time for contemplation, meditation, and prayer, I invite you to take 3 breaths. The first is a breath of gratitude for our ancestors. The second is a breath of gratitude for ourselves. And the third is a breath of gratitude for the people that we will be ancestors to, those future generations yet unborn. Over these last several weeks, we've been considering the gifts that we give to our congregation, the commitments that we make, and we have been considering, why does this place matter to us? Andre Lamontagne will be sharing today what First Parish in Framingham means to him.
Hello, my name is Andre Lamontagne. I first came to First Parish in the fall of 1997, and I believe I signed the membership book the following spring in 1998, so I've been a member for 23 years. I was a lapsed Catholic looking for community, support, purpose, maybe all of those and more. And I have to say, after the first service and the coffee hour that followed, I immediately knew I'd found a home, immediately. It's hard for me to describe what First Parish in Framingham means to me. The members of the congregation, the church, and its role in our community, and broader Unitarian Universalism have really allowed me to understand myself more, understand what I believe, and I'm really grateful for that. It's been a real source of strength in these last 23 years. It's interesting that I really wasn't much of a volunteering type before I came to First Parish. I don't think it was for lack of interest. I think maybe lack of capacity and maybe opportunity. But churches have a lot of things going on, and they need people. And so after a while, people started asking me to help out or to serve. And I generally said yes. Currently, I'm on the Board of Assessors, and I'm also the coordinator for First Parish's support of the Family Promise program, sheltering program. In the past, I've served in other roles. The first was on the Maintenance Council over some 20 years ago with my friend Dick Rader and others. What followed after that was many roles on the Religious Exploration program. I've been a Sunday school teacher, facilitator for OWL, advisor for a junior youth group, as well as a member of the RE Council and a DRE Search Committee. I've also been on other committees, canvas committees, nominating committees, an interim ministry council. I've also served as a worship assistant, and maybe most importantly as a bartender during our annual auctions, and I'm looking forward to those coming back to events that we can hold in person. And those opportunities to serve, to volunteer, also encourage me to serve other organizations that are dear to me, and I'm grateful for that. In addition to serving First Parish with my time, I support First Parish financially. I did that from the start. The level of my support has grown over the years. That's come from maybe increase in my own income, but also more of an understanding of the church's needs, from serving on the board, from serving on canvas committees, from the education that's come from other Canvas committees over the years, and I've been able to support First Parish financially, and have been grateful that I could increase that contribution over time. I'm very grateful for those families that supported First Parish for the 300 years before I came, and I'm looking forward to making sure that First Parish continues on for another 300 years with my support and the support of the other members of the congregation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Andre. The ongoing work of your congregation depends deeply on your generosity. Even though we are not gathering, it is crucial to remember that fact and to show our gratitude. If you haven't already, I invite you to click the second link below to set up electronic deposits for an electronic payment for your pledge and your financial commitment. Or perhaps during this time, listen to the music and consider and remember your gifts that you are given. They are gratefully received. May the morning offering now be joyfully given and gratefully received. Friends, our reading today is from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verses 1 through 8. And rather than read that from the screen, I'm going to read that from our large pulpit Bible that we still have. It's kept in the back closet right here. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Salome, had brought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, Who shall roll us away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away, for it was very great. And standing into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment, and they were affrighted. And he saith unto them, Be not affrighted, ye seek Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen, he is not here. Behold, the place where they laid him. And go your way, tell his disciples and Peter that he goeth before you into Galilee. There ye shall see him, as he said unto you. And they went out quickly, and fled from the sepulchre, for they trembled, and they were amazed. Neither said they anything to anyone, for they were afraid. Here ends our reading. Our second reading is by Wendell Berry. It's called Manifesto, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay. Want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die, and you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So, friends, every day do something that will not compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all that you have and be poor. Love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for after all, what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in the millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that prophet. Prophecy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful, though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? Go with your love to the fields. Lie down in the shade. Rest your head in her lap. Swear allegiance to what is nighest your thoughts. As soon as the generals and the politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection. Here ends our reading. Each year, the central question in the Unitarian Universalist minister's mind is, how do we address the Easter narrative? And what is this story's relevance to our lives? What meaning do we take from a story that seems unimaginable? A story that's violent and unbelievable? Or the other option is, do we ignore the story and just focus on the rebirth that spring brings? Or do we fret about which gospel reading to use and which lines do we leave out? We draw upon poetry to help explain the unimaginable. So I think back to one of my first Easter experiences as a preacher. It was sunrise, or at least we thought it was. I was leading my first Easter sunrise service during my minister's sabbatical. This was my junior year of college. We had gathered at the appointed time based on what the almanac said at the appointed location. I had timed things out just right so that the homily would end right at sunrise. And I got to that point, and there was nothing but a dull glow. Now you could see that the sun was rising, but between clouds and a large stand of pine trees and the distance between Boston and Groton, it made us uncertain when sunrise was actually happening. So the cold congregation stood for a little bit longer, and then we left. A minister friend of mine, the Reverend D.L. Helfer, who serves our congregation in Rhode Island, told a story a while ago about an outward bound canoeing trip that they had gone on. That year, the black flies were fierce, and they had bit DL's face to the point that their face was swollen. Incredibly bad, so bad that, in fact, they were being sent home. They knew that they were being sent home, but they weren't sure when they would be sent home. They described this weird feeling of waiting in their cabin alone for the call that they were going to go home. And it was terrible, just not sure when they were going to leave. I think many of us are feeling this way right now, knowing that we are in this liminal time of not quite before and not quite after. We're in this place of not yet. As our world starts and stops and lurches towards a new normal, we dwell in this not yet, which means this is the right time to practice resurrection. That Wendell Berry writes so eloquently in his poem, to do something that does not compute, to make tracks more than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Inviting us to practice resurrection, practice doing something that does not compute, though we have considered all of the facts. That's the big thing that I think does make sense. That is what is relevant to me in the next few days. Be hopeful, though the world will tell you not to be. Though you might be scorned or mocked, be hopeful. I would have to believe that perhaps this is what and why the women who found that the tomb was empty were afraid. Who would believe such a thing anyway? How could you be joyful after the death and the loss from the previous week? As Unitarian Universalists, we often forget that this story takes place in a larger context, that this is a part of a larger story that began on Palm Sunday when Jesus triumphantly entered into Jerusalem. Then on Maundy, Thursday, where Jesus gathers his disciples for the Last Supper. On Good Friday, he is executed by the state. On Holy Saturday, Jesus' body is laid in the tomb. And some scripture also tells of him descending into hell and saving the souls of all who died. That's truly a universalist story right there. Then on Easter Sunday, those closest to Jesus go to his tomb to anoint his body and find that the giant stone that was covering his tomb has been moved and Jesus is not there. And still there is hope. When we think of hope, what do we think of? It's likely an expectant, joyful hope, right? Nancy MacDonald Ladd, in her book After the Good News, Progressive Faith Beyond Optimism, introduces us to the work of the progressive Baptist theologian Miguel de la Torre. De la Torre reminds us that the English sense of the word hope implies a kind of pausing in anticipation of something good that is about to be revealed. De la Torre reminds us that the Spanish word for hope, esperar, means something drastically different. It means to wait in apprehension of either good or evil. So this is a hopeful time, yes, but in the wait in anticipation sense of the word. Some of you have described, and I have felt this as well, the feeling of getting the vaccination and getting your second vaccination, if that's the kind of shot you're getting, being something like rebirth. We are able to leave our homes and go out into the world, perhaps, very soon, we hope. I hope you are remembering, or that you will record what that felt like. Write that down so we can pass that feeling on to future generations. This Easter story, whether in the beautiful language of the King James Bible or some other translation, is written by the scribes from a finished, final draft point of view, likely written 65 to 75 years after the events that happened. What is left out, therefore, is so much of the in-the-moment feelings. It's rather a neatly told story. Now, I know that a few of you are 65 years old or older, and others of you know 65-year-olds. If you had to recount something 65 years after the fact, that story would probably be a little bit polished. You will have forgotten the details. I wonder about the stories that will be told from this time in our world later. Now, there will, of course, be a temptation to sugarcoat things, to only recall the silver lining, to say it only took a year to develop the vaccine. In that way, we would forget how terrible this in-the-moment feeling had and the great joy after that we felt. So how do we explain the resurrection? Well, I don't know if you can or if you have to. Walter Brueggemann encourages us to remember that Easter is not a spiritual event, but a surging of power that touches all life. The Easter question is not whether you can get your mind around the resurrection, because you cannot. Rather, the question is whether you can permit in your horizon a new healing power, new surging possibility, new gestures to those who need help, new ways of power in an armed, fearful world. New risk, new life, leaping, dancing, singing, praising the powers beyond all our controlled powers. My friends, watching this on your separate devices, apart yet together, as we wait in this period of not yet, I invite you to be joyful, though you have considered all the possibilities. Be hopeful with apprehension and anticipation of what comes next. Continue to search for the tiny signs of new life, rebirth, renewal, re-emergence, and yes, perhaps maybe in all likelihood, resurrection. May it be so, and amen.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in awe. Keep with the web of creation your law. Giving, receiving, as what shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the truth. All of beauty and wisdom of time. Soften thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the white sky. Take thy neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with the people whose rights I delight. Take not for granted the privilege best. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Make the light falling with all who will share. When toward the planet transform my own head.
I invite you now to extinguish the candles that you have lit in your own separate homes. And I invite you to type into the chat box, I carry the flame, or we carry the flame. Friends, before you close this browser window, I invite you to take a moment to pause. In this world of virtual gathering, we go from screen to screen, from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. And I invite you to take a moment to pause and ponder, what will you do next? As you go out into the world, let us bring that light from our candles that we have just extinguished and use it to brighten the pathways, our pathways, and the pathways of those who need our help. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us ourselves, safely back to this virtual community. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen, and go in peace.